CBC for purposes of clarity on the ongoing rollout of CBC in pre-primary 1 to grade 3 is illegal and unconstitutional in nature. Illegal and unconstitutional in nature, and violates the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Worth noting, and as teachers will never participate, mark it, we will never participate in an illegal process and unconstitutional process. Worth noting, up to date, there is no approved statutory instruments to anchor the exercise. There has been no commission gazetted to manage the process, and the exercise is in total contravention of Public Participation Act 2018. You cannot pick people with business interest and a few technocrats at the Ministry of Education and call it public participation. This is exactly what happened before the purported launch of the policy. We cannot be invited as flower girls to go and cheer a policy that we have not participated in. We will never be flower girls. The Constitution gives us the mandate to participate in any policy formulation. The content of CBC is heavily borrowed from Professor Douglas Odhiambo Task Force report, which was otherwise rejected in 2012 by stakeholders. Once a report is rejected, it is permanently dead and buried forever, unless another commission is appointed to undertake that process. Worse still, it is laughable that the Ministry of Education, while developing CBC, is purporting to have benchmarked with Tanzania, South Africa, Malaysia, Zanzibar, Ghana, Burundi, Uganda, among others, where CBC has failed. And our research department is detailing reports of all those countries, how CBC has failed. And we can give you South Africa. Teachers taught it for 6 months. And because it couldn't work and they were not prepared, they boycotted teaching and reverted to outcome-based curriculum pedagogy teaching which they were trained. And that's how it died. In Malaysia, a rich economy, 15 times stronger than ours, the country shifted from outcome-based curriculum to competency-based curriculum. And competency-based curriculum in the long run is very low in terms of content of knowledge. Basic education means basic. The emphasis is greatly on knowledge. Malaysia realized the damage it was doing to its citizenship, and it reverted back to outcome-based curriculum. And when the ministry tells us that they benchmarked with failed countries, then they're telling us we are very sure it's a matter of time before we declare that this program has failed. And I'm saying here today, we caution them about the laptops. And the laptop failed via the reports of the ministry. Reports of the ministry, that puts it at 5% success. Yet 70 billion shillings has been wasted to deliver only 1 million tablets. Not laptops, tablets, 1 million tablets, which currently half of them are dead, dysfunctional, and the purported teacher training, which was undertaken by TSC, did not skill any teacher at all. So it is waste of taxpayers' money and resources. 70 billion could have employed all the required teachers of 104,000. And this is another preparation, is a huge ripoff that you have never seen. In fact, if this country is talking about corruption, don't look for corruption anywhere. Come to education and this curriculum review process and use a telescope. You will see many activities of corruption. And it's a matter of time before it collapses. It sounds strange and unprofessional for the Cabinet Secretary to purport to be launching national curriculum policy that will anchor CBC before summative evaluation of the pilot phase of the curriculum is conducted to establish whether what was piloted is better than what was there before 844. And this is where the big question lies. When the pilot was conducted during the wrong time, the middle of the academic cycle, June to October, did we get any report? Did we really get any report? And even when it was extended, last year, 2018, for what was called national piloting, yet indeed there was no activity at all. Do we have a summative evaluation report? From the professional perspective of education foundations, that is a necessary step. That we have a summative evaluation report that then is able to tell us the findings of the pilot compared to the current education system that is obtaining. And it is from that pilot summative evaluation that the National Education Conference can be caused to consume and decide and approve the rollout. After approval by the National Conference, then is escalated to Parliament through a session of paper. So the other question, the session of paper that we have seen in Parliament, I'll not talk about it. It is a document of the National Assembly. Did it originate from a national conference? And did it originate even from such a process? Whether that was piloted is better than what was there before. Was still, there is no known quality needs assessment report to guide the process. Dr. Juan has opted to be arrogant at KICD and is throwing tantrums instead of reasoning with us. The needs assessment was poorly done, and therefore it cannot guide this country. Summative evaluation is key in curriculum development. What Professor Magoha presided over at KICD yesterday is unheard of, and mark it, it is unheard of, and has never been witnessed anywhere in the world. And you know, we are speaking as teachers, professionally, as men and women who are trained to deliver teaching. Many countries are now focused on outcome-based curriculum. And that explains why the UK has declined to adopt the CBC. The UK has declined. And the United States teachers have refused it 3 times. Because it's a proposition of business interests who want to mess up public education so that they can promote privatization. Even here in Kenya, when you look at it, simple indicators. The private school owners are purporting that they are ready because they know the public schools don't have the infrastructure to drive CBC. Neither do they have personnel or even classrooms. So CBC rollout is only meant to kill public schools and public education. And globally, if the world is moving to strengthen outcome-based curriculum, why are we moving to do what Professor Magoha is doing? What Professor Magoha is doing is toying with the curriculum reforms. Malaysia has reverted to outcome-based curriculum after a brief rollout of competency-based curriculum. And all those proponents who are condemning the outcome-based curriculum, basic education is basic, mzingi, elimu mzingi. You're being given knowledge, and knowledge to prepare you for post-basic training. And that explains why Kenyan students have done very well everywhere. In the Ivy League universities, and nowhere in the world do you get an active media like the one you have in Kenya, because you are equipped with the necessary knowledge. And that's why the summative evaluation was necessary to inform professionally. It is not something that is done politically and impulsive. And I wish to say at this point, there is no more professionalism in CBC. There is 100% and above politics in CBC. And that is how this country will be killed, and that's how public education will be killed. According to established norms for CBC to succeed, 1, the development and implementation of CBC must secure full stakeholders' involvement and participation as a constitutional requirement. This must go beyond teachers. Everyone must participate. Particularly when you're talking about CBC where parents are involved. Are parents prepared? Do they even understand the concept of CBC? And are they ready to supervise and assess even learners at home? Do they have that capacity? When we are talking about a nation where poverty index is at alarming percentages, the parents of this country are fighting with poverty, food and clothing. They have no time to engage in such a pedagogy. 2, All public schools must have adequate infrastructure to accommodate increased number of learners to deliver CBC. And I'm asking Professor Magoha, do we have the right infrastructure in terms of classrooms, in terms of furniture, in terms of teaching materials? Because a teacher is expected to prepare a file for every learner in every lesson. How do you do that in a congested classroom of 70 learners? It is completely impossible. 3, implementers who are teachers of CBC must be trained adequately on the new curriculum and training from the pre-service. CBC cannot work when you utilize teachers who are in service to change their pedagogy to CBC. In fact, what we have here is not change of education system. You people of the media, it is change of teaching, because we are changing from outcome-based pedagogy method to competent-based pedagogy method. You need time to train teachers at the pre-service course before rollout. So that we have proposed that the rollout can be from 2023-2024 in another document which I've not attached here, so that there is enough time to change the teacher training curriculum and train teachers with competency-based pedagogy skills to roll out the curriculum. What is happening now is punishing the teachers who are in service, who cannot interpret the designs, and who even have been trained by trainers who are innocent. They don't understand. Who are tabula rasa, blank. They cannot understand the CBC. How do you have a trainer who doesn't understand the CBC training teachers in the classroom? It's a paradox. And you men and women of the media, walk to the classrooms everywhere in Kenya and beam what is happening. You will believe what we are talking about. Presently, trainers of trainers, TOT, lack the prerequisite skills and competencies to interpret and implement CBC designs. 4, there must be standard assessment procedure of learners. And currently the Ministry of Education, TSC, KICD, NEC, and Kenya Institute of Education have all failed to agree on an assessment procedure. There is no agreement on an assessment procedure. Absolutely. And would like Kenyans to be convinced about an assessment procedure. When we talk simplistically of continuous assessment tests, and those tests are not there, then we wonder how this will be done. 5, implementation of CBC requires small class sizes as per UNESCO recommendations. For personalized teaching, which means more classrooms, more libraries, more workshops, computer rooms, and more schools have to be constructed. Most public schools in Kenya lack basic infrastructure. And we want to thank some of the sections of the media who have highlighted even schools that do not have classrooms. Classrooms being undertaken under trees, or teaching being undertaken in dilapidated classrooms which are flooded. We've seen in Coast. These are realities of Kenya. And these ivory tower policymakers who don't know the state of infrastructure of schools are theorizing and forcing something that will not work. There will be no fairness to the disadvantaged children, even in ASAL areas and in public schools. 6, at least 3 teachers per class are required, which Kenya cannot afford presently. The country faces an acute shortage of teachers. 7, teaching tools and infrastructure needed for implementation of CBC are far above what the country has provided to schools. There is no evidence of government's commitment to avail these resources. And Professor Laban Airo's report, which was adopted by the government through the National Steering Committee on 19th of December at KICD, put the conservatory estimate of 365 billion as money required to roll out from pre-primary 1 to grade 3. The question is, the nation has not discussed the economics of CBC. The government has not committed that it shall avail 365 billion to install infrastructure and avail learning resources. What we have seen in the budget is only 2 billion for computers and CBC. That will do nothing at all. And then 8, inadequate learning facilities, poor infrastructure development, and lack of trained teachers for CBC in public schools is only advantageous to private schools, which are now doing lucrative business at the expense of public schools. We are almost convinced, and we are yet to carry out a detailed study. Somebody might want to destroy public schools to promote chains of private schools for purposes of business. Where is Olympic primary schools at Kibera that used to top in exams? It was destroyed by promotion of private schools. The 100% transition is not a generous offer from government. It is meant to destroy the best secondary schools in the country. And eventually, you compel the country to shift to private education. We see very far. The devil is in the details. There will be no equity. And we are not going to support, let it be known, we are not going to support a process that is going to kill public education. Because the child of Wanjiku is in a public school and must be protected. And 9, the